Johannesburg Human Settlements MMC Mlungisi Mabaso believes upgrading informal settlements and redeveloping hostels will help solve the city's housing problems. The city plans to upgrade informal settlements in 3 phases, with 10 already in the 3rd phase. Mabaso joins me now to tell us more about these plans. Mr. Mabaso, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. Now, just firstly tell me, how's the backlog looking? The last time you looked at it, how long is that list of people who are still waiting to receive houses from the city?
Thank you very much, and greetings to you and greetings to the viewers at home. The backlog is estimated at more than 500,000, and the reason for that is because we have 480,000 on our housing waiting list. We've got people in the informal settlements that have not made any applications. We've got people in the hostels that have also not made applications, but they are all in dire need of houses. So that's why our estimation is above 500,000. But what we have done as the department or as the city, we have introduced various programs, to address this backlog outside the mega projects that we are currently implementing, where we are constructing houses. But the informal settlement upgrade program, which started not so long ago, where we are providing services to the people where they are, where we are giving people stands, and where we are formalizing these informal settlements. So they are in 3 phases. The phase 1, it's where you look at the enumeration, where you do your audit to check the number of households, to check the number of structures that are within the informal settlement, and also to investigate and conduct studies to check if the informal settlement is situated in a land that is developable, or it will require an immediate relocation, or it will require further studies. So once we have completed all that, that's when then how we make a determination whether we should proceed to phase 2. And the phase 2, that's when we start to do your packing of stands. That's where we start to do the layout plan for the informal settlement, realign the shacks in the informal settlement, and start to put in interim services like your electrification, the water, and the access roads. So the phase 3, it's where now you speak of the permanent services, which also talks to the installation of a sewer line, stormwater drainage system, and the permanent electrification and the provision of water on a permanent basis, but also to do a township establishment for the purposes of giving people out title deeds. So, and the other program that we had introduced is that of the hostel redevelopment. As much as we are getting frustration in terms of resources, because we do not have sufficient resources, to fully implement our hostel redevelopment program. But there are quite a number of programs that we have introduced in the hostel, which include the refurbishment of the units. And very soon we are going to introduce a contractor through City Power that will do electrification of the club hostel. Yes, the hostel is there's the structure, they are dilapidated in a way, but now because the hostel is dark and people are unable to access these services, and the crime, is very high, because even police can't get access at night. We then said we will provide electricity so that at least there is light even at night for even police to get access, and also for the leaders in the hostel to be able to fight crime that happens during the night.
All right, so I hear you outlining all these plans. It sounds like something that will not happen overnight, obviously. So how long are you seeing this actually come to fruition?
Well, the informal settlements upgrade have started. Per financial year, we identify informal settlement where we are doing all these studies. So we started in 2020, there are those that were on phase 1, which graduated to phase 2. And in the last financial year, those that were in phase 2 went on to phase 3. That's why in this current financial year, we have 10 that are on phase 3, where we are putting in permanent services and where we are doing township establishment. So in this current financial year, there are those that are on phase 1, again, where we are doing these studies and enumeration. So each and every financial year, there are informal settlements that get to be identified. And once we have concluded on the phase, then they move to the next phase. So it's an ongoing program, and it touches all the informal settlements that are recognized in the city, those that are in a privately owned properties, and those that are situated in government-owned properties.
You also mentioned that you have about 318 informal settlements that you have recognized or identified to form part of this project. Is Alexandra one of those townships?
Well, remember, Alexandra, it's an established township with the informal settlement within the township, yes.
Yeah.
So there are informal settlements that are on phase 2 in Alexandra, which Triangle is one of them, Organic Market is one of them, Marasta, it's one of those informal settlements. So there are informal settlements in Region E, particularly in Alexandra, which were identified. And already there are activities that are happening. There are consultants that are on the ground working with the department. So those are part of the informal settlements that are already on phase 2 of our program.
So are you saying to the residents of Alexandra that at some point there are issues about dense population and the fact that they have no space, there's no housing, they're not safe in the hostels that are already there? Some of them actually have no lights, no proper wastewater infrastructure, etc. Are you promising those residents that this problem that has not been able to actually be dealt with in decades now, you will be able to deal with it?
Well, with the informal settlement upgrade, our priority is to de-densify and decongest those informal settlements that are highly dense populated and those that are congested. So this program is meant to address that. It's going to take time, but with this program, we are going to achieve all that. And in Alexandra, again, we are also embarking on the hostel redevelopment, because if you could go to Madala, we are at the completion now of those temporary structures that we have erected there for us to demolish the hostel. With the Helen Joseph, we have submitted the plans now to development planning for us to develop extension 52, and that is meant to address the challenges of Helen Joseph Hostel. So there are programs that we have introduced in Alexandra to deal with issues of houses, and also we have met with development planning because we have identified properties in Marlborough, and we have seek assistance from development planning to rezone those properties into residential areas so that we are able to develop for the provision of accommodation for our people. So we are, in fact, we have entered the space of Alexandra, but because it's highly dense populated and it's too congested, so it's going to take time. People might not see the result now, but eventually as we move along, because we are already on the ground implementing this program, they will start to see results. But because it's a historical challenge, so it's not going to happen overnight. So it's going to take time, but they will start to see results as we move along with our implementation.
Mr. Mabaso, you've been working on housing and human settlement in the city of Johannesburg, you say since 2020, of course. So what have you identified as the problem in Alexandra? What has taken different politicians or different people who headed human settlements department and other departments who were supposed to look after that township? What has made them unable to deal with the bad issues of Alexandra?
Well, I will not speak on their behalf because I don't know.
But what have you identified to have been the problem?
But the reality is that, one, in Alexandra, we do not have sufficient land parcels to relocate people for the purposes of de-densifying and decongestion. And secondly, with the city, there are no sufficient resources. In fact, because what we receive from national government is not sufficient, to address the challenges that we have. And unfortunately, the province is not assisting us in any way. We are not getting any financial assistance from province. So, and in the absence of that, the city of Johannesburg really cannot do much. And that is the most fundamental challenge that we are facing, and which makes it, even very difficult to deal with issues of houses in areas such as Alexandra. But if you will recall that in Alexandra there was a presidential project which was called ARP, and that project, there were billions which were invested, and it was meant to address the issues of human settlement in Alexandra. And I think that's where the ball was dropped, because it was not properly implemented, and that's why Alexandra is still congested now, and that's why there are still allegations that wrong people benefited, and that's why there are even challenges with the allocations that happened in that program. And all the problems of Alexandra were supposed to be addressed during that program, but unfortunately it did not happen like that, and that's why we are still sitting with this challenge.
All right. Well, we'll be following you, Mr. Mabaso, just to see, particularly with Alexandra, because I think once you sort that problem out, it might show the muscle that you might have in terms of human settlement for the entire city of Johannesburg. Thank you for speaking to us. That was Joburg's MMC for Human Settlements, Mlungisi Mabaso.